Hello and welcome back. We're back. So thanks for joining us tonight. I started doing this in about 2018, Come Patch with us, and it was my way of opening the door for people in their studios to share their modular patching techniques, to just have a chat and geek out a little bit. And thanks for everyone who's here live. You can get involved with the chat, feel free. I am watching in the chat room. So hello everyone. So yeah, we're back. You know, it's been a bit of a hiatus. Things just happened. I got busy and I said to myself this year I was going to bring back Come Patch with us, and I have with a bang. If you're not familiar with this, like I say, I invite people to join me. We beam into their studios and they share some of their patching techniques. If you go back, there's another 4 episodes. I've had Ned Rush on here, Patrick O'Brien, DivKid, Nathan Moody, Joe Miller, Ken Flux with it, James Sigler, you name it, they've been on it. So go back and watch those ones. And we've got some really cool guests back with us today for episode 5. And so I'm gonna. You see, I don't want to do too much talking on this. I'm gonna let the guests do most of the talking. So who should we bring it in first? I'll bring in. Hello, Mr. Jamie Lidell. Hello.
Hey. Yep.
You
good
right?
to be here, man. Yeah. No, this is great. This is fun. It's you know, I'm in Nashville, so it's like one in the afternoon for me. And you know, I'm just looking at all the lights flashing, but they're not flashing in the same way in the day.
Well, appreciate you being here, man. And obviously, everyone must be more than familiar with what Jamie gets up to in his spare time with his podcast.
True.
So do go check out the pod, Hanging Out with the Audiophiles. What episode? Episode 119.
Yeah.
Wow. Crikey.
Yeah, man, you know, it's still going. And I've got the Patreon related to that. And,
oh, yeah.
You know, I try to feed my sort of sonic explorations into that. And I'm doing that increasingly, actually, because I realize, you know, I think part of the thing with having the modular and having such a kind of, these days, being a dad and everything, a lot of my output is strange and like at strange times, and I'll be like, oh man, I got super into doing this weird drum experiment on a Wednesday night, but I'm not sure what to do with it, but I should share it, you know? Yeah. So the Patreon, I've started to think about almost like a little bit of a record label, where I'm just sort of like, this is a sort of an unreleased, this is a sound or sort of an idea or set of ideas to share. But yeah.
Yeah.
Don't want to plug that too much, but it's a good thing, I think.
Yes, in fact, I will plug it with some extra text. Here we go, everyone. There it is. Jamie Lidell Music, and you can get to everything from there. And
thanks, man.
Yeah. You know, the way that you're thinking about that, like as like a record label in a way, and also a way of kind of almost keeping a diary in a way, is
completely.
This is kind of what I want to do with this show in a way, because
exactly.
People tend to hear the output, don't they, of modular synthesis, but along the way, you kind of get involved with new patching techniques and ideas, and
totally.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but when I first started working with modular, I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll just write down a decent patch, and I can recall it later. Never works.
Nah, I mean, even within the world of a patch that's current, like the one I've got now and possibly one you got, like I haven't touched it since about 11 today, a couple of hours ago, because I was like, oh, I've got the sweet spot now. Just like, I don't want to, like, if I touch 2 faders, it's like, it's gone. It's part of the joy of it though, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us, mate. Looking forward to getting stuck in, seeing what you've got going on.
Yeah,
and then, of course, we have also got Matthias. Welcome. How are you?
Hi, Matt.
Hey. And today he's sporting his microphone in his beard, which is, I think, you know, that is the higher.
If it rustles too much, just tell in the chat, guys, and I'll try to find another place. But it's very convenient. It
really is. It sounds good.
I grew it especially for tonight. It could.
Okay.
Matt told me
dedication.
far in advance, and I could do that.
So for those of you who may or may not be familiar with Matthias's work, not only is he a music producer, and there's a lot of releases on his website you can go and check out, but also as a researcher. God, you know, you're like a proper scientist and things. But one of the reasons I came across you was because of your work with the Puech Ensemble Oscillator, which you co-designed with firmwares, and also you did the Tapographic Delay, which I've never used, but looks really cool. And then the Parasites firmware and the Batumi alternative firmware, which I use all the time. They're just like fully always loaded in there. So that's kind of how I first came across you, man. And yeah, you kind of make me feel like I'm only just getting started with modular, you know?
I started hacking into firmware stuff about at the same time I got into modular in the first place. I got my first case, and the minute I got some of the digital sound processing modules, I knew there was something there I wanted to explore. So it turned my life a little bit upside down, I must say, because I was, as you said, I was a proper researcher before that. Nothing to do with audio. I was a computer scientist, theoretical computer scientist, and then on the nights and weekends I would code for like the alternative firmware you mentioned, and then I started working with proper companies, Chaos Device as first, and then 4MS, and now I'm actually it became my life. I dropped the teaching and researching gig a couple of years ago, and now it's fully my life. I'm an R&D researcher at GRM.
Wicked. GRM. For those of you who don't know, GRM, brilliant sound processing tools out there, and really cool. So I guess there's some really nice crossover between modular world and using GRM tools and that kind of thing.
It's funny that you assimilate GRM with GRM tools, but maybe we'll come back to it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's funny. It's interesting to me.
I got those crossed up. Wicked. Well, look, hey, if anyone there's quite a lot of people here in the chat room. I'm trying to keep my eye on the chat room. Someone's asked, Uncle Chrome's asked, is that the Neumann beardy mic? Could well be. That could be a cool one to go. I think, actually, folks, what I might do is go over here just a second, because as we're talking about the 4MS, I've been, hopefully you can hear that, that's my modular. So I've been using the 4MS Ensemble Oscillator recently, and yeah, I absolutely love this. What I'm actually doing is I'm running it in its dual mode. So I've got output A and output B spitting out their own outputs, in just going into a VCA here, and then into the NT2D by Sonocurrent module, which there's a video coming out later this week on that, which I've done. Brilliant distortion unit, and yeah, I've just been having a lot of fun with this. It's running through the Belgrade as well, which I'm just kind of pushing it through, which I just love. So I've just got a simple sequence going on from the Metropolix there, and what I was doing was sending some envelopes into the various parts of the 4MS. So I had this going into, I think, the twist. So this is just an envelope coming from the quadrats, and it's just turning up that twist. I've got it going through an attenuator as well, so I can ramp that up and down a little bit. I had then another envelope going into the root, and the root on this, one of the things I love about this is that it blends through the kind of octaves like that. I've got the probability on that, just like, so it doesn't do it every single time, but when it does, you get this really cool jump through like that. Then I was playing with the warp, and that was going in, yeah, warp. So adding even more crunch by turning up that warp, which I just really love. And then finally, this is just something that I realized today, was taking another envelope. So these are just envelopes, by the way, and sending that into the scale, into, is it the spread? Yeah, the spread. And you get extra notes. Just listen to the spread on its own there. You get these extra notes happening, which is wicked. I didn't realise. So kind of adding all that together, I'll just bring in a kick drum for some hi-hats on the DFAM. And that's all coming from one oscillator.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's powerful.
It sounds so good as well. The low end on it is kind of chunky and rich. Just got some reverb there as well.
Matt, can you change the scale just to see what happens?
Change the scale? Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, I'll just go 12 o'clock.
Wow.
I'll go all the way around.
Ooh. Yeah.
And of course,
Really
the scale.
The spread is like wild now.
You can have that working on 12 tet or octave, or just frequency. Wow.
Yeah. It's the B section.
And then of course you can just go back to where you was. And
Nice,
they're just
man.
envelopes. They're just envelopes from the quadrats, moving those things around. And absolutely love it.
Yeah.
You know.
What's the source of the envelope? What's the sequencer?
Yes, it's just a Steppy by Intellijel.
Oh,
So yeah, I've got just over here. I've got another one over there as well. So I just find the Steppies are just so quick to program. You've got ratcheting on them. You can change the clock divisions and probability. You can save stuff into them. 4 outputs on them, and they're really, really small in a 1U.
Yeah. Nice lights too.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of. I just thought I'd kick things off just quickly with that because
Love that.
big appreciation for that,
Yeah.
that module.
Very respectful, Matt. That's cool.
All my
It's
all my
always
live
great
sh-
to hear what people do with it. It's always a
Yeah.
surprise, you know. It's
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm using it live. It's always in my live case, just because it's so playable and because
And
of the range
small.
of tones.
I mean, get that much, like you said, out of one oscillator. That's always, it's always a challenge, isn't it, taking out analog oscillators, because you get a certain tone, but there's such a limited, in the space you can use for one ensemble oscillator. You'd need the wave folder, you need all kinds of additional things to make that analog oscillator kind of have a chance.
Yeah, and 16
And it would
of them
never.
too.
How would you do a spread exactly on on a one oscillator? Good luck. Yeah, that's cool.
But it's really always a trade-off, right? I mean, and then you have to, and then you're stuck also with the controls that the designer gave you, right? So when you have a multiple module like this with many of the same entity in it, then you're kind of as a designer, you have to decide what meta controls you have to give to the users. So that was the biggest challenge there, was figuring out how to approach it from a musical point of view. 16 oscillators, you can do it in many ways, but how to approach it in a musical and compact way.
Yeah, I mean, Uncle Chrome said maybe you could parallel a single oscillator into effects channels to achieve that. Yes, you could. But I mean, for the price for the Ensemble Oscillator and what you get in there, I mean, it does it all for you. And
it's also not the same thing. I mean, applying wave folding on 16 oscillators separately and applying wave folding on the sum of all, it's not the same. So you have to have the 16s, the 16 wave folders if you want to replicate it, which nobody will ever do, hopefully.
That would actually be quite a nice thing. It would be fun as an exercise to just really make the analog version of the Ensemble Oscillator. It would just be someone at Richard Devine, or someone's going to have enough oscillators to do it. And wave folders and everything. 16 of everything.
Oh,
I'm buying the first round if someone does this.
Yeah, right? Yeah, totally, man. Yeah,
wicked.
Good stuff.
Well, I mean, I've kind of just had a little bash there. I'm interested to see what you guys have been up to, what anything you want to share in terms of your recent patching, anything you've got set up. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, Jamie, do you want to maybe go first and we'll have a gander at what you've got going on?
Yeah, it's okay. It's actually not that bad. I mean, I wish it wasn't so dark, but you can see pretty much everything, right? Mm. It's strangely dark all of a sudden. I think it's just the sun's gone in. But, right, I mean, ultimately, I wanted to show, like, this idea of using the Droid here as a way to basically turn this sound which is 4 oscillators. We've got an XPO, Cloud Terrarium, and 2 Osiris. So it's 4 kind of wavetable-y oscillators. And then the MIDI from this is sending chord information into a HRMOD, and then the HRMOD is sending all the note information, so all of the note values come from the HRMOD essentially via MIDI, right? So that's just a simple polyphonic patch. And then the oscillators themselves go into 4MS, a looping delay, and a mimeophone just to add some space. That's that space you're hearing.
Cool.
And then the variability, it actually gets a bit stuck sometimes. I'm going to start the clock now, which is off screen, and then once the clock's in play, then we've got motion here, which can vary. So like basically I can have slow motion just to control and animate some of the wavetable oscillators. But that's still in the realm of just modulating and working within this patch, essentially, just a nice poly patch, right? But then the whole idea was, what would happen if I could somehow like animate that? So on this fader, you probably can't see, this is one of the more faders from Bafako. Now it's moved into Euclidean generator with the same notes. I've only got one of the 4 notes playing at the moment. Mm-hmm. This is, so basically, that's the number of potential steps, that's the number of steps playing, activity.
Okay.
And then this is the probability that an accent will happen. And then this is a clock divider. So that's one note in a chord. Here's a mute for the next note.
Oh.
Then I've got a volume for each of the notes. Then we add them all one by one. And I've got different envelopes for each voice. And then, so now we have all the 4 notes of the chord playing. And now when I play, I change the chord here, it will change obviously all of that. And I can change the way the rhythm behaves. And then adding effects.
Very nice.
Okay, and now what I can do is crossfade between that and the actual poly.
Oh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fun little thing that you can do. And then on the iPad here, what I just sort of tried to do is have a way to record in time everything that's happening. So you see a little loop happening here. So now I can sort of mute all of that. Now on this fader, what I've just done appears as a loop, and I can sort of reverse that.
Jamie, what's this app?
Loopy Pro.
Okay.
Right.
Now I'm playing something different, but the old loop is still there. Okay, so that's one part of the patch, basically.
Nice.
And then like the other part of the patch I wanted to show was, I've got an Assimilator here, and I'm controlling that with the new Assimilator MIDI controller, which is actually an amazing addition to it. Those of you who might be skeptical thinking it's not very Eurorack or whatever, I very highly encourage you to try and get it because for me personally, it just opens up so many avenues to explore it. So at the moment, there's a pattern recorded here on the Circlon that's going to send MIDI notes to a patch. So I can just unlock that. And I'm using a Droid in the second page to control the Assimilator. That's like vibrato per note. Now I can play on top of that with my other patch. And I should also mention that this I have coarse control over all of the filter settings for the whole patch. Which is kind of fun because, you know, that just basically is a way to sort of get the control of the tone of one aspect of the patch versus another. And then the last thing that happens is basically I should have some kind of drums playing, but for some reason they're not playing. I think this is because I don't have a pattern for them. So it needs a pattern, obviously. Will that play a pattern? Oh no, I'm wrong thing. Anyway, there are some drums which I can probably make happen at some point. But in a way, the drums are kind of the least important and also the most annoying part of the patch. Oh, they're all muted. I think they're all muted. Let me unmute them, hang on.
Yeah, go for it. It'd be great to hear it in context. There they are.
Wow.
I just quite like this idea of having filters over all of the...
So how are the drums synthesized?
The drums are synthesized, right. Let me just stop this.
It's off camera, it's not on the modular, right?
It is in the modular, it's done on the ER301 here. Which is slightly off camera. Wow. It's basically, so look, if I put the drums on, the kick, for example, this fader here is a kick selector, different kick sounds. There's the pitch of that sound. There's a decay of it, the volume, and then the whole thing goes into a filter at the end so I can make it resonant.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Anyway, that's it, you know. Then like, yeah, playing over it is. You can bring in now the iPad. Now what's really crazy, let me just stop all of the drums and stuff. And stop the Euclidean thing. So we're just hearing the assimilator now, right? This is a coarse pitch of the assimilator. One of the crazy things about the assimilator is its wild pitch range. Check this out. You can then go wildly high. But now if I want to get back to it, I have presets on the Droid. So I can be like, there you go. Basically, just like the mega patch, you know, and it's just like trying to get around it and survive a whole jam, basically. I tried to sort of like hold on. But the Droid having the recall, I suddenly thought, oh, I forgot that one layer of the thing was my old patch. where I could control the assimilators as well as the Euclidean stuff. It's all in my preset recall.
So is it?
So crazy.
It seems like there's an awful lot of thought gone into this, man, and I love this. And essentially, what you built is this. You built an instrument, you know.
Yeah.
It is something.
Tends to be what I do.
Yeah. So was that like a conscious decision, and that you thought, you know, this is something you could even. If you wanted to take it out, you could take it out.
I couldn't really take this out. I mean, I could sort of, yeah. It's a very, I mean, because the thing I didn't show, to do the enveloping of the pure chordal sound, before it goes into the Euclidean thing, it also has to go into a quad VCA and a quad envelope,
right.
You know, just to do traditional poly. So that's one side of it that goes into the crossfader. So it's just, you know how it goes. There's a lot going on, and actually the assimilator is using a lot of modulation. Each voice has its own modulation, so the vibrato is not global, it's per note. So I learned that from doing other poly patches, adding vibrato to each oscillator separately with separate modulations, different speeds, is amazing. Actually, one of the things that I also have is like a way to control on this sound. There's a fader here, which is actually the volume is on a Batumi. Like each note of the polyphony is on its own speed.
Oh, I love that.
The range of sounds that you're getting from this, man, and the
amount
you can shape the tones as well is just brilliant.
I mean, and this is a sound selector for that so I've got more than one sound on this bank, but then there's another bank here I wanted to show, which is like just like these sort of effects that are more demonstrate in a way the fact that the sounds were recorded at very high sample rate. So down. dead fun.
And you still get all the clarity from that. It's amazing. Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, and you can move between. This is the release time. The oct is doing the kind of vibrato stuff. Yeah, it's dead good. Like, it's really like super satisfying. I mean, that's the thing. I got so involved in. To do the assimilator thing, you have to have the same sample on each of the slots. So it's basically a polyphonic instrument. And like before this software was released, the A8 Manager, that was a real pain in the ass. Because actually what I've got is multiple layers so that you can use a slider to do sound select. So it's multiple polyphonic instruments all with the sound selector. So you actually have 5 polyphonic instruments per preset. So that you can like do, sort of get into a world of like, this is my belly patches. So if I like that bell, but I want a different one, I can select a different sound essentially within a preset. So yeah, you know, I get into like this headspace of like, I want to really explore the assimilator again. And then, you know, then I'll get super deep onto that and then I'll think, oh yeah, but I want to make a Euclidean thing. So making the Droid patch for the Euclidean generator, that took me a little while. And I enjoyed, I didn't really show, and it's hard to demonstrate quickly, but one of the fun things was like, I wasn't happy with it just being like, I really wanted accents, you know? Right. So I really wanted that kind of like, to make it more animated, so I added probability to the accent, and that was really nice on a slider. So the amount of chance of an accent happening within the Euclidean thing was that was a big revelation to me. Yeah. But then to do that, I have to have a core volume and then a secondary volume for the accent level. And so it's quite, that's the thing about the patch I don't love. I would love to have a second Droid to do like the preset storage for, you know, that's why I start to get into it. When you start to think about instrument building in the polyphonic realm, there's so many recall things that you might want to do that you need a lot of preset recall devices potentially to kind of actually play it, you know, otherwise there's so many moves you have to make to get back to certain places. Like at the moment, I can't get the polyphonic synth to really kind of behave unless I manually change the envelopes. I'd love it to have like presets. But anyway, there you go. Well, I could ramble about this all day.
This is amazing, man. It seems to me like the Droid has really enabled this to happen.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time with the Droid interface. Yeah. It's wonderful. It is. I like the faders because I came from making what happened was I worked with Tim Exile's Flow Machine, and that loop was based around the Behringer motorized faders. Yeah. And like once I discovered, and I like having a section of my modular that's extremely clean, like as my main interface. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't mind the clutter elsewhere, but if I have that one central headspace zone, then I can think of the macro controls that can come from that. The only problem with the Droid, I wish the master had more than 8 CV outputs. It does have 8 gate outputs, which is why I made the Euclidean generator, because I can just use the gates for that. But having like 24 CV outputs would just be, that's what I need. Yeah, but there is an expander. There's a Flame MIDI expander. There's a company called Flame make this MIDI to CC converter, MIDI to CV converter. It's obviously only 7-bit at that point. It's this little thing. It's like, and it gives you all those extra outputs. Oh, 16 more CV outputs. And actually the Droid is a very capable MIDI. I had another patch where I was controlling that Loopy Pro completely from Droid as well. All the EQs, filters, VST, or like the iPad equivalent of VSTs. All of that was being controlled from a separate page in Droid. So then I could just stay at my fader control surface and just change what the faders are doing essentially. But it's a lot of programming. You've got to be prepared to program everything. You've got to program Loopy, you've got to program Droid. it's not immediate modular. It's the antithesis of like analog modular work. It's like very much, you know.
There is that comment here from Jiltrix. Hello, and he's been on one of our previous episodes. He was saying that he was looking at the Droid for some time, but it is something that does require a bit of programming.
You've got to know yourself.
You've got to be prepared.
You've got to know yourself. If I've made max patches and all of that stuff for a long time, since about 1999. And like I've made and done shows with that kind of thing. And I know what it takes. I think to make an instrument that's really yours, you have to get your hands dirty a little bit. Otherwise, you can just run the risk of running marbles into an oscillator and putting a delay on it. And it makes ambient music, but we don't need any more of that.
Damn, it was my patch, Jamie.
No, but you know what I mean. Like modular can get a bad rep for that because people are like, it just goes blink ploop. It's like, no, it's a very powerful world, but you have to work out how you're going to control it. These are the battles that instrument designers have always faced, and so we are still facing them now. So you've got to be kind of a bit. I don't know. I like it. I think what it is I like something that's really cerebral. Obviously, you know, something that's really like gets me like in a problem-solving mode. Like, and that's what Max used to do. And since I don't use Max anymore, this is my kind of Max.
And you've created something as well that's tactile. You can touch. You can interface with. I guess my question would be then. So you've got something amazing settled there. I'd love to play on this.
Yeah,
so
it's fun.
At what point do you decide, okay, I'm just going to pull it all out and start again? Or is it an evolution?
It's soon. No, it can't be an evolution. I was going to pull this. This was going to be the last time. This show was going to be the last time this patch stays. Okay. Because I've got a lot of other patches I want to make with the resonant equalizer, the L1 resonant EQ. I want to like do like preset recall with that device and like try to do some really crazy filter stuff. So like to do that, I'm going to need Droid to be completely free. So yeah, it has to go away. But I think what I tend to do is rinse a patch until I'm like bored of the tones that it makes. To be honest, I don't love having the wavetable oscillators in here. I preferred it when I had like more traditional surge and buckler oscillators. Yeah. They were really like great with the Euclidean. They like really like bounced, like because their tone was more stable. But anyway, yeah.
Do you know what I found though? At leaving something patched up for a long time, and this was a case with a lot of my live cases, because I went down a rabbit hole of creating an album all using one case, and it stayed patched. But because the cables weren't getting patched in and out, they were getting crackly. And I don't know if it was a build-up of static or what. Do you either of you suffer with that, or is it just me?
I haven't.
Right.
Like touring, I have this little case here that I bought from that I built myself, and it doesn't have really the height to keep the patch the cable patches the cables patched. And I toured quite extensively with this. And every single night you get in, there is one cable that's or one little thing on the module that went away and that you have to press back and stuff. Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. But when you
why does that happen?
It's just the pressure of the case. In my case, it was the pressure of the case, and also
stressing the jacks.
Yeah, stressing the jacks, and also at home, if you leave them like this for a longer period, it doesn't happen to you, Jamie?
Maybe a long period. I've never had it patched that long.
I mean,
maybe a month.
Yeah.
This one's been up a month.
I think we've just got dusty houses, and yours is like super clean.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure that I'll keep an eye on that now.
yeah. I mean, it really annoyed me because I spent the whole of lockdown planning it, on modular grid and putting things in and out, and even like getting the right cable lengths and everything like that. And then after it was patched up for about a month, it was just constant crackle. But it may be that my lid was a little bit putting too much pressure on the cables.
You have to exercise the cables, and you have to exercise the knobs too from time to time.
Well, isn't that the thing about patch bays? Patch bays in studios. I think it was Richard Hilton mentioned it once on the Sonics Talk podcast. Is that the whole thing about patch bays is actually as you plug in stuff in and out, it
cleans the connector,
cleans the connection. Yeah.
So that's true. I've got a lot of analog and vintage gear here, and like I really know that. I mean, my AMS, I love it to death, and I really hope it never is. It's on the edge always, that one, of breaking. But I feel like, if you don't use it, it's definitely going to break, kind of.
I think you've just got to go around your studio, Jamie. Just turn every single dial, push every button.
I do
plug a
sometimes.
Jack and an XLR in.
I pretty much do. Yeah, there are quite a lot of things down here that I've seen a lot of use. But anyway, pains of having a lot of analog stuff, I suppose. But I haven't had any problems with that so far, though. That's good. I feel lucky.
Joe Tricks was saying he uses tendrils. Have you seen them? The right-angled cables. I've got a load. I don't know if you've got them, but they can be really, really useful.
There's on this. It's these all tendrils and also Luigi's. You know Luigi's modular?
No.
They've got their little moustache. In fact, my modular case is based on his. His cables. I love his cables. Right. And then also he also makes kind of his own version of the tendril, which is a lot more malleable. It's called like the Empire or something like that. It sort of looks like this. It's not going to focus on that, but look how small that is.
That is,
it gets into even smaller spaces than the tendril. The tendrils are good cables, though.
Tendrils are great, and they now can do the stackable on a right angle.
Yeah,
which is cool.
It's these ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I thought that didn't they hold a patent or something on stackables?
Really?
Or
that
or
seems
is it
a bit
Tip
ridiculous.
Top or somebody? Yeah.
Well, they relaxed.
Maybe that's what it was. Wicked, man. Well, Jamie, I mean, that's like next level. Here's me just playing around with one oscillator, and you're like building a whole orchestra, and you can play around with.
I mean, but it's what you do, isn't it? Sometimes you get into a flow with it, and.
Oh man, it's what it's about. It's like you make it what you want. That's the thing about modular, and some people do buy it just to use marbles and stuff.
No shame.
Oh yeah.
But shame. But I'm not gonna. But I don't know. I think there's sort of like, it is lovely to introduce randomness, but you can do that in the computer now too. So I think the thing that like having it's random and it can create chaos. It's like only if if that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man.
I'm really like the fascist over here. I'm like, come on, do better, try harder. Yeah, no, but anyway.
Love it. And I love the fact that you're also using the Oxy, because that is something that I'm quite interested in looking at, because
Oxy is good.
You get a lot of I/O on it, and it's got some tricks up its sleeve for like generating patterns.
I've loved it actually.
Chords. Yeah.
I've really loved it for this patch. One of the satisfying, simple things that it does is by playing a stacked polyphonic chord of 4 notes.
Yeah.
Basically, it forces the Herm mod to cycle through the oscillators.
Yeah.
So just pressing the same chord, it will scan through.
Yeah.
And actually, I've found doing that on a keyboard doesn't quite do it in the same way.
Yeah.
So it was pretty lovely to use it just for that. And then it has an arpeggiator in it, which is lovely. Another thing I was doing today is like recording. Everything's clocked to the same thing. The Circlon, Loopy, and the Oxy are all clocked. And then the quad clock that distributes everything to the Droid and everything. It's all clocked off various related clocks. And then then you can record a little pattern into the Oxy or a little pattern to the Circlon, and they'll all start playing, and you can tweak instead of playing, So yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that.
No
just before we move on, just a bit of housekeeping and a little bit of a shameless plug. If anyone's interested, you can head over to my Bandcamp, and that's where I've got everything at the moment. Into all my music, you can get for £3 a month. You actually get all of my music plus hours and hours of live streams and B-sides and remixes and all of that there. So head over to that. And actually, I wanted to have it ready for today, but I didn't get time. But I am going to go down the Patreon route, and I'm looking to launch this maybe next week. And for this, you get all the music, you get regular hangouts. I'm also going to be doing some private tuition on there, because I do get a lot of people contacting me, and sometimes we jump on Zoom and things, and I do some work with them and help them look at everything from playing live using Modular, VCV Rack, Bitwig, Ableton, taking your album out on the road once you've written it on the computer and that kind of thing. So going to be launching that. Yeah, thanks, man. And
it's interesting because I looked at the way that classical musicians, I have some classical musician friends across the way, amazing players, and I always thought, oh, they must make so much from commissioned composition and all of that, but they really make their living as teachers. It happened back in the day with the greatest composers of, they were always teachers.
Right.
So that's a very kind of traditional and I like the Patreon is bringing that back, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Teaching is a really important and consistent thing for all of the, composers of our time.
Oh yeah.
So good on you.
Yeah, cheers, dude. Well, I mean, I've been working in higher education for 15 years or so.
Exactly.
So it's an easy transition for me, and it's
totally.
so easy now to do it over the internet. And as I say, I've had quite a few people contact me about this, so I just thought I'd formalise it and put it into Patreon. But anyway, I'll let people know once that goes live if anybody's interested in doing that.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Matthias. All of the Matthews.
Matt, call me Matt.
That's confusing then. We got two Matts.
Yeah, we do.
I'm Jay, apparently.
You are Jay. Yeah.
Jay.
It's enough respect.
You put that in.
That's easy. I know.
So, do you want to show us what you've got going on?
Yeah, sure.
If I bring up your modular there.
Yeah, is it?
We got a little bit sound, yeah.
Yeah,
you can maybe turn it up a little bit.
You're probably not gonna need the second camera then. Yeah. That's my rig. It hasn't changed much in a couple of years now. Mostly because I don't want it to change anymore. Also because I've been transitioning more and more in the box or on the computer because of the tools I'm developing now. But this is the modular rig, and it still gets a lot of uptime. So today, let me just adjust that. Yes. I prepared a little patch that's kind of representative of what I would do live. It has a couple of different parts, but the bulk of it, actually, you can see here. That's the output, and going backwards, it goes into warps, and then it goes into the Tapographic Delay here, which does most of the work, and it does it in a quite simple way. It's really a simple patch. Something you can recreate in 5 minutes, and the idea was to use as little as possible and to get something interesting. So get several different voices that would go together well in a small form factor. So where should I begin? Yeah, maybe.
So actually, just before you do start, is your case is mounted on the wall?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I had that, and I quite liked it. Really,
that's
I
me
thought
here.
It was, yes,
that's great.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not okay. So I can't pretend that I'm like you guys in a fancy studio. This is really literally my bedroom studio. So You have the kids next door, so it's not ideal situations to do music. And the fact that it's on the wall like this, it's pretty. It doesn't get as much dust, but at the same time, you have to. I'm not in front of the speakers when I play, and this is a big this is a big disadvantage. So I have to wear headphones when I patch, and it's not that convenient. So it's gonna change at some point. I'll get my proper space. I'm working on it.
Good.
But for now, that's what I have. Yeah, we can start. Can you guys hear?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
This is just a spring reverb that's self-oscillating and going into a built-in bandpass filter there. And it sweeps the bandpass filters, sweeps the frequencies, and the feedback does its its job. And it's just like very slowly making small oscillations. And this goes into the firmwares Tapographic Delay. And so the Tapo has become one of my the center of my rig. Just to create these very lush, very broad stereo effects.
Yeah.
And then from there, I add material. So this is, for example, that voice is the Twin Peaks, so that resonant filter again. So basically, the whole patch here is just delays and resonant filters, and that's most of it. Most of what it is.
Ooh.
So dry is this.
What's the little ping?
That little ping is marbles into Twin Peaks, and that's it. So basically, marbles provides random voltages, and it also, each time the random voltage changes, it triggers.
Yeah.
And I use that trigger not to trigger an envelope or something, but as an audio input. So it's just pinging the filter.
Are you talking about the Rob Hordijk twin peak resonator?
Yeah, that's the one.
From the Cologne.
Yeah, it's
Klangbau.
It's not the Klangbau one. It's the Epoch modular one, which is a bit quiet. It doesn't have so much output level. You have to
sounds really nice. I love that.
It's very simple, and you get there very quickly. So these little pings there,
they're great.
Get multiplied into the topographic delay, which like at the moment just is on its second preset. Okay, I designed the preset, so I told myself that I'm allowed to use it.
Definitely, man. Yeah.
But if I crank the feedback all the way up, and even if I enable repeat there, then I can turn down the input, and I have something of a texture going on like this, and I don't have.
Yeah, so nice.
And then, since I'm on repeat, I can maybe play with it a little bit. And then, so repeat basically turns the topographic delay into a sound and sound machine. Just not outputting the exact input, but the multi-tapped input. And so I can add stuff on the way now. Let me bring the Hertz Donut, for example. Just little stabs of notes. Oh, I have to turn the input. it's staying there.
Yeah.
And now I can. What can I do? Oh, this is another thing I coded. So everything goes through warps. Warps is a kind of a modulator out of the factory, but I use it. I coded a delay in it.
Of course.
Nice.
And I must say it's the only delay the only simple delay I use nowadays, because it has its character. You can do these things where you block completely the.
What?
Yeah, this is the big knob here is the. It's not the delay time. It's the transport speed.
Right.
Oh.
Ooh. Oh.
That's tasty.
Dude.
And I can be back here, and I can go reverse.
Oh, nice, man.
How much fun is that?
Such a good controller for that as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever ran like samples through that, drums and?
Oh, of
like
course,
that?
yes, it's lovely.
Yeah.
And you get this decimation when the transport speed is very low. You get this natural decimation like from tape. Yeah, it's quite
good job. It's a lovely thing.
And then the Ensemble Oscillator used completely bare bones, just as a chord machine, basically. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it, but so my patching has evolved a little bit over the years to use less and less modules, but also less and less cables. I love doing this, doing things by hand, and I think my music probably not for everybody, but my music lends itself to this in that it's very it's quite slow, and the evolution of it can be quite can take its time. So this is the Ensemble Oscillator. Let's bring in some grit a little bit. And it's all about textures.
Yeah. It's very filmic and cinematic.
Took everything over. So I can add a little bit of noise on top of this.
Yeah, dude, that is awesome. I mean, it's lovely that you've done the clever thing with the small case, which is essentially loop, which is like kind of the key to keeping things going, isn't it? And then keeping the moment going, and then having enough control to sort of go, okay, now I can just add this, some note spikes into the mix.
Yeah.
And it won't just go away, because otherwise you don't have a sequencer.
No, I don't. There's no sequencer in the case. I've never had a sequencer. So.
Love it. It's just tone.
But it lends itself to it because it's
Marbles is
mostly
a sequencer,
and
I suppose.
Yeah.
Marbles is a sequencer. It is. Well, it is. It's a rhythm generator, some kind of generator, but more like kind of like using it to create rain, or like like kind of like that's when the randomness is so beautiful, isn't it? It's like for these moments of of natural like little raindrops.
The looping thing, I'm allowing myself this because you can't really hear the repetition. I know if I could hear the key factors here is the fact that the topographic delay has such a big buffer length, so you can record minutes and minutes, and by that time the ear kind of lost track of the repetition.
Absolutely.
And also because its output is so multiplied because of all the taps that get out. I don't want it to sound like repetition. If I can hear the repetitions, then it's not. But it's true that it's a very convenient tool with a small setup.
Well, look, I mean, I'm very familiar and love the process of working with the reel-to-reel sound-on-sound loops. And of course, you get something like that with this system, which is really lovely to see, especially when like you had your final firmware modified warps. Is that just going to be a personal firmware? You're going to let that go?
Oh no, it's been on the web for years. Yeah.
I didn't even know.
What's it called?
It's a bit buried. The alternative firmware has 9 different modes, which was a bit too much. And one of them is this delay. And I must say, it hasn't. I haven't switched it away from this mode for so long now. It's just became warps has become a delay.
So what do we search for? Warps.
Warps Parasite.
Just Parasite.
That's Warps Parasite.
Firmware. Okay.
I've got to put your Batumi firmware on mine because that gives random outputs, doesn't it?
Yeah, actually, so nobody knows that, but I did the whole Batumi firmware, not just the alternative one. I think they just redevelop it for some reason. There's a new version out, but up until last 6 months ago, I had done the whole thing. It was It was also a story of I built one, and then I asked these guys, the guys at Chaos Device, that's a long time ago, if I could tweak the firmware for my own particular uses, and then it turned out to be useful for many other people, so I released it.
Wow.
Yeah, man. That's it. So that's mode number. That's the one before the last.
Good for you.
Variable rate
delay. Yeah.
So you got the delay speed direction on the big one, and then you got the delay length, and then you've got the feedback loop, analog ping pong feedback, driveware, output 1 and 2. Wow.
Yeah, I can show you a little bit more if you want.
Yeah.
Jamie,
this has got your name all over it.
I love it.
You know, it's very sort of tapey, and you know what you was doing with the...
Of course, I love it.
Yeah. You know... Wow.
This is amazing.
Wait.
I love it. Just holds back all of that information and just lets it go. Like a crazy tap.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have anything on, it's so right now.
Pretty unique.
Yeah, it's silent now. It's almost silent. But I used it for a long time, just standalone without any input, just as a feedback machine.
Yeah, you can generate that.
Just that for hours, you know, hearing the static. So this is the mode where it's the kind of analog modeled one where it saturates and distorts. Then you have a ping pong mode. You have many different modes.
No, I like that it's lo-fi mode doesn't have a lot of the high frequency aliasing. It's kind of like quite dull. I like that.
Well, it does. There's no there's no real protection against aliasing, but you can get around it a little bit. Try it. You'll tell me.
Some good charm. Yeah. No. Hey, you know, I noticed that with the simulator. Like, of course, it has variable alias rates, but I was making a mistake for a long time of just trying to change the alias of a sound at its root pitch. But of course, the aliasing only becomes obvious when you go lower or higher than the center pitch. So, like. Yeah, no, that's a great. I just love that Warps is on such a satisfying knob. See that? I really love that. Yeah,
but it's actually really fun. So the code from that for this delay, I was pretty proud of it. I wrote it in 2017, maybe around 17, and honestly, I didn't know what I was doing back then. I was a good coder, but I was not. It was my job, but I knew a little bit about DSP, but not that much, and I had to like manually go through. I still have the note, like manually make diagrams on paper and simulations of like samples by sample what I wanted it to output on paper before I coded it, and I recently so I'm developing new stuff in at GRM, and I recently rediscovered this delay code, and tried to read back the code that I wrote 6 years ago. And for the moment, I didn't figure it out. So
yeah,
I don't quite know.
Maybe you need ChatGPT to maybe
help understand my own stuff from
spit it out
my
again.
own self.
Like, what do you think I was thinking? Like, well, that
resonator that you did on the Clouds as well is really a lot of fun to use. Didn't you also do a firmware on the Clouds as well, where it did more kind of beat repeaty kind of stuff?
That wasn't me. This was someone else.
Right.
This was the other programmer into Clouds.
The other one.
Man, dude, that's really lovely stuff. So, are you working on any more Eurorack stuff, or you don't have time for that now?
No, I don't really have time for that now. No, it's.
What is GRM then, if it's not GRM tools?
So most of the GRM actually is not GRM tools. Most of GRM is we're a very small team.
Is it like Aircam?
15 per. It's like the David of the Aircam Goliath.
I see.
We're just 15 people, full time, and we welcome composers and musicians in our studios. So we do residencies at Maison de la Radio, the French public broadcast. So you guys are welcome to apply if you want to join us for a residency for 1 week. We're rebuilding completely the studios at the moment, but they're gonna be ready in a couple of weeks. So most of it is actually music production, organizing concerts. We have like 20 dates a year at Maison de la Radio and others in all of Europe. The guys were in Stockholm last weekend.
Brilliant.
But you need to program, man.
And there's a very small team inside of this, which does what GRM is well known for in our circles, which is GRM tools, the plugins, which have existed for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a classic. You guys have heard it, yes?
Yeah, I think that's why I got it mixed up at the beginning.
Yeah,
I mean,
actually,
GRM
me
tools
too,
was the only sort of really experimental and great plugins way back in the day when me and Christian Vogel were doing like Super Collider back in like 1996 or something. 97 maybe.
It started in '93, I think. So the first version was on the
pitch accumulator. There's some beautiful ones.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about like the Daisy and like various of those open platform Eurorack things where you could just like put code?
Oh yeah. Oh, they're great. They're great. We've been prototyping stuff in Daisy a little bit. So one of the at one point I'd like to get back to hardware. For the moment, I'm really focused on actually we're restarting GRM tools from scratch. We're rewriting from scratch.
But you could theoretically put that into Eurorack format.
I'd love that. I would love that.
I think a lot of people would love
that. Okay. I can talk about it because it doesn't exist at all. But if I were to do it, I would. If I were to develop some hardware, I would probably not go to Eurorack for a simple reason: is that when you realize the potential of modulation inside of the box, like modulations, LFOs, and random stuff. What you can do in the box when you're not constrained by the fact that in one cable goes one signal. That's what we were talking about, Jamie. This opens up so much that I couldn't really go back at the moment. Maybe we'd have to develop another format, maybe the ARC stuff, maybe.
Well, you still have to interface with that control at some point as a user. So you could still have underneath the hood all of that complexity and internal LFOs happening, so long as the processor was good enough
So long as the process.
Yeah, so long as if the Eurorack, say it was in Eurorack, so long as that was essentially a computer.
Yeah, but then if you want to plug one module into another, you would have to have a special relationship between the two modules. If
it would be a standalone effects unit, just a good sounding one.
Yep.
With some cores, with some macro controls. That's all.
Yeah.
Meaningful controls like you had on your warps there. Like, of course, that's how you want to interact. You don't want to have it could make sense to have like the big controls, available.
So
really give the wow factor.
Yeah, either you make that choice for the user. This is the control I'm gonna. Or I could go your route also, Jamie, and have
bust it open.
Bust it open and have an instrument that's configurable, that requires a lot of mapping of parameters for the users, mapping of parameters to controls. I think I'd be happy with that too. I don't know.
That would also work great. And basically that's where you buy the expander module.
For all the additional controls. Yes.
Yeah, it's a massive expander module. That's huge.
What I would love to have is, as a user, more than a developer, is something where I have full control in the computer to do all my editing, my routing, my mapping of parameters.
Yeah.
And then on a whim, just unplug the cable, take the box with me, and it's already there.
That's
and
what
I
was
can
going to
play
say.
with it, either in the same room, just recording, but not having the screen, or taking it live too.
But what at that point is the advantage of having anything physical at all? Why not just make a really good control surface for the computer?
To avoid having to plug and unplug from the computer, to avoid having to bring the computer on stage, which is. Do you guys play with the computer on stage or not?
Always did. I always did.
Yeah, Jamie, it was like your main thing. For me, it's mainly my sequencer and a tape recorder now.
Okay,
that's what I use it for. But this is a really good conversation because there is a little talk about why would you get a module that's just kind of digital if you can just run it inside the computer and run it on stage and that's fair enough. And I've got loads of digital modules. I've got modules essentially polyphonic synthesizers that you could easily I could have a million of them running inside the computer. But I don't know if I suppose I'm just trying to think what those reasons are. One is, I suppose, I use the computer so much throughout the day, I don't want to necessarily turn it on for music.
This for sure.
Two, I want something tactile when I'm making music. Like watching Jamie on what he's just made there, he's like, you are playing it, you are interacting it, you're using your fingers to control it, you're connecting with it.
I think we all were in our demos, that's the thing. It's sort of like, I think that kind of in a way goes to show I heard Richard Devine talk about this and he developed a whole system. I think he was saying that he was going to go towards using a 32 output DC coupled audio interface to send 32 outputs to the system. Yeah. And that's great, that's a cool solution. Because then he can sequence with Max MSP, Reactor, way more algorithmic, way more, machine learning based, way more his style, extremely complex and always animated in a way that would be so hard to do in a modular system. And then you just sort of plug in with a big jack, loads of all of the 32 outputs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because in the end, really nothing beats the keyboard and mouse for this kind of editing.
Yeah.
Sometimes, really and I liked, you can make incredible patches, which are only fun when you play them. You know, they also they are, and like having like a way to control them. I don't know. There's so many ways to do it, right? There's so many beautiful ways to do it. And like I think what happens with me, I don't know if it's the same with you guys. I think with you, Matthias, it's like what I love about what you've done is like you clearly spend a lot of time in a computer. Your system that you've made there is, and I saw that with Blah One or whatever, like using really like making it happen, like playing it all. Like every time you do something, something happens. It's not like sitting back and the system does something. You have to be actively putting things into it. I think you can hear that intention when you listen to stuff. You know, there's some patches which are generative. That's what I was ragging on earlier. I feel bad. I'm already feeling guilty about saying this stuff about marbles and stuff. But I think what I was trying to say in a more articulate way is certain generative patches could be done like, and you could have more fun in a way if you were just sort of also getting involved, you know.
Yeah.
So it's that balance between letting the modular sort of take the reins a little bit, but also steering it. I mean, that's what Raymond Scott was always doing, steering the ship, and working out how to steer the instrument is kind of our job sometimes, like how
that
to
tension
make
there.
it work. Yeah,
that tension there is to me that's exactly the crux, the thing I'm looking for into music is where am I going to lose control over the machine? Where am I allowing myself to do that, and when I have to take back control. So there's a kind of dialectics there, a kind of communication between the machine and ourselves. To me, that's where the music is.
You know what you're reminding me of? It's like a beautiful, maybe metaphor. It's like, well, not beautiful, but a metaphor. But like you say you have a fan spinning in the air, and then you throw some dry leaves at the fan. Your intention is to throw the leaves, but once it hits the chaos of the air, it's like you just watch it like spread and go crazy, and you've got no control over that. That's just for you. You can maybe grab some and throw some back in, but like but you can turn the speed of the fan down. And then you'd know where the leaves were going to go in a more predictable way.
It's also, what do you want to offload as well, intentionally offload. So when I'm playing live, I don't really interact with my sequencer. It's, you know, most of my songs are one note anyway. They're just gates firing out. So I don't need, that can all be firing off a computer. I want to be playing with the sounds. I want to, for me, I want to play with the tones, the textures. I want to make sounds longer. I want to add delay. I want to send them into space and then bring them back and make them dry and create that experience. And I find if I offload that side of things to, you know, for example, using probability. So something doesn't trigger, like it triggers like 50% of the time. More often than not, that doesn't satisfy me. For some weird reason, if I program loads of probabilities, when they trigger, I'm like, I want to put that there. I want to put that there. What, you know, I would have triggered it a bit. I would have triggered it the next time round.
I've been listening to I've been listening to Dilla beats again. Like periodically, like a Dilla phase will happen, and I was like thinking, because I was thinking to myself, like exactly that conundrum hit me, because I worked with a guy from Winter Modular to make a firmware for the Eloquencer where you could change between patterns without it going to the end of the sequence, like a legato mode in Ableton where you can change mid-sequence to another pattern. So you could always access multiple patterns. So then you can create a lot of complexity by only making a few beats, but just kind of randomly scanning between them as they're playing along. But then I was thinking I could access that, but then it would be like a kind of chaotic beat. It's not what I want. I was thinking to myself, Dilla wouldn't have allowed it to chance like that, because you wouldn't nod your head. It would just be like, it would be too cerebral. It wouldn't be funky. You know what I mean? You got a drummer like playing like with intention. That's the funk. You know, it's there delivering the funk to you. And I think some things you have to, like you said, like if you're going to make it bounce, sometimes you've got to like tell it where the bounce is, because like that's not a random thing. That's an intentional thing.
And the other place I pick up on that in electronic music is like with Aphex Twin stuff. I listen to his programming on drums, and for some reason it just clicks. It's intentional because he
writes it.
There's a million plugins out there that will do kind of beat, repeat, stuttering, glitching on random, and
doesn't get you there.
It doesn't, does it? It's,
no.
I'm sure he uses those and then edits some of that. I mean, there's I think there are some things like the crazy, like ratcheting, like things that are moving, like and really tearing and stuff. That can be done with a process. But I think the kind of core rhythmic element and like his use of like really gated sounds, so like really like tightening up the rhythm and stuff. Like that's like so exciting, you know, just like gate length, just remembering things like that. Like don't always have your stuff in one shot. Make sure you can like get a short note, because like there's so much funk that comes from the velocity and the length. I think if you forget about velocity and length when you're making beats, and you can't access that in your beats, you're going to have a hard time like really making them pop. You need velocity, and that's, I'll tell you what, another thing, going back to the simulator, it has a mode where you can put like 64 sounds. Like you can have 64 sounds like chromatically spread, just like an old school sampler. And like but because it's MIDI, you can have velocity. And like for some reason, like it's so fun. I was just like going back to basics, just like having the circle on and just hitting the sounds with my fingers. And like
you mean because of the velocity sensitivity?
Yeah, the velocity is like, it's like, you know, if you don't have velocity when you're making a beat, it can be so annoying.
I think we tend to consider a lot of music, a lot of events in music to be random, and we don't realize the variety of randomness there is in nature, and the variety of the kind of different algorithms or procedures that can generate things that look random to us. We're really bad at detecting randomness.
Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, that is a wild topic. I mean, I thought just then, I was like, tell you what, I would actually like to see a performance where the leaves are special leaves that are like actually not leaves, but they are like something knows about those objects in 3D space. They're tracked. So you could actually perform that way. Like you could actually make music with the leaves and the fan.
And a broom.
That could work, right? Yeah, and a broom.
That could work.
Like each leaf would be like digital, or like would have some kind of tracking ability. How would that work? Maybe it could have a different color. So it could literally just be tracked with a 3D, with like a visualizer that could just see, to know where things are in 3D space, because they can do that kind of stuff now, right?
Yeah, right.
Like when you track, when like you have your face painted with dots, and then it can make, you know, face tracking basically. Yeah. But you have leaf tracking, and that like corresponds to modulation. I mean, how cool would that be? I'm trying to think of like different ways to interact for electronic musicians, because we're really locked. And like that would be such a beautiful thing for an audience to see, that these leaves are actually making the music. Yeah, and they could be contained within a terrarium, so they wouldn't go all over the place. It'd be like the storm in the teacup when you shake the thing and watch the things fall down through the liquid. And how beautiful would that be?
I love all the work in experimental music about that deals with water, live water, like people, you know, pouring or letting droplets of water fall, and that creates rhythms. And I don't know if you guys know about
love that.
Work. Tomoko Sauvage is one, is a French one. There are plenty now, but playing with the hydrophones, or even microphones, picking up like very carefully picked up events or stuff.
Oh, have you seen that woman? Yeah, sorry, man.
This is randomness in its pure form, like it's unpredictable, but at the same time, it's like you describe it. So it's a way to play with a natural phenomenon that looks random otherwise.
Oh yeah, and what a beautiful thing, because you could do, like, while you're performing, you could have one of those overhead projectors that's like the ripple tank. Yeah. Then you project the ripple tank massive behind you, and you're like. Yeah. you could see the ripples come out and you could hear them.
Love it.
Like I love that.
Love
kind
it.
of stuff.
And this is where there's like full intention and full randomness at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
really
just before we wrap up, just going back to velocity, as particularly in modular, and I'm just trying to think how we articulate velocity in modular, and it's typically, I guess, using a VCA, and attenuating
but
that,
filters
and
too.
Closing it. Yeah.
You could do it with like filter or your behavior of a low pass gate potentially, or changing the envelope time that goes into the low pass gate so that it kind of clamps quicker. So essentially you're changing tone as well. That's much more like a physical instrument,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you kind of like, you can actually, rather than put the decay on the sound, you put it on the low pass gate.
Yeah. Is that what you get on those? Because you've got the natural gate.
Yeah,
the
natural gate.
Is that essentially what that does, Jamie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's good like that. It's got 3 different attack modes, basically. And they sort of change the transient style. So like to kind of mimic like, real instruments. It's great. They're really good. Yeah, that would be. That's what I was saying. Like, I have a hard time. I was having a hard time with these drum sounds. But tell you what really sorted me out today: spring reverb. I was like, I heard an old recording. Actually, a Dilla beat it was, and I was just like, he sampled some old thing. I was like, it's the spring reverb that makes this beat so cool.
But you had one in your 301 patch, right?
I did. I've got a spring reverb on off the desk. I've got this Demeter spring reverb. It's nice.
It was really clean.
Yeah, it's a good spring. So yeah, like sometimes there's stupid things like that where you're like, oh, we run all the drums to a spring reverb. Great. Now it has character.
Just pulls it together, adds vibe.
Yeah, but spring reverb specifically, right?
Yeah.
I noticed that. Where's your spring reverb in your system? Is it hidden? Where's the tank?
Sorry?
Where's the tank to your spring reverb?
There are 3 different ones, and they're behind. Actually, they're between the wall and between the wall and the modules.
Can you? Oh yeah, it's a shame you can't play them because you probably like them, huh?
Yeah, I had to choose.
Yeah.
Clean aesthetics versus playability. I made a choice there. I don't know if it's the good one.
I like that you'd use that band sweep feedback off an analog oscillator, essentially.
Oh, it's
That's
so simple.
Cool. It's beautiful. I don't think I could do that with my studio spring reverb. Maybe I could.
Well,
just
feed
it into itself.
Feed it into itself and put a filter in between.
In between it, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic.
Well, listen, gents, we've been chatting for like an hour and a half, and it's
just get started.
I could go on for ages. Yeah, absolutely.
We went over, but it
was worth it.
It was worth it.
And we've had loads of people joining us tonight. Thanks, everyone. We've had like 40 odd people watching at the peak time, so that's brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I just love doing this. Yeah, no, well, thanks for joining, guys. Really appreciate it, and I'd love to have you back on again. I'm going to try and do one of these every month. So hopefully next month I've got maybe Patrick O'Brien. He's going to be back, and hopefully Milo Melodies, if he's available. So he's penciled in for the next one. So do join us, everyone, and hit that like and subscribe and the thumbs up and all of that. So yeah, Jamie, what's next for you? It's like 2:00 there now, 2:30. You're gonna have your lunch and then you're gonna crack on with some music. Next
I have my lunch. Usually this is the time when our son goes climbing, but I'm actually off the climbing duties. I've got my good friend Rob Berger maybe coming over. I'm going to lend him my ARP 2600, and then I want him to play like bass, just Moog on this. I've been working with a pedal steel guitar player. We've worked on a lot of it's great working with pedal steel. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool. And I've been loving playing the mini Moog and try and match the pedal steel by just manually tuning the second and the third oscillators. Oh, so, like, it's just been, like, amazing fun. So, like, I'm gonna hopefully I'll get a chance to, I'm gonna try and sneak him in on a session, like, try to get him recording, because I can never catch Rob. He's a hard man to catch. So that would be great. But yeah.
Wicked. Looking forward to the next pod as well.
Yeah.
I guess you
Don't
can't
know who
say
it's going to be. I
You
don't
don't
know.
know. Oh, really?
I've got, it might be the guy who helped me with my room design here.
Okay.
This guy Jim Keller, who's kind of a sort of acoustician and room builder, room designer. He really helped with this room build. It's been quite nice.
Wicked. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
And for you, Matthias, what's next for you?
Going to bed with the awful flu. I've been.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
Well, it's been awful. I've been
Sorry
coughing the whole time.
Oh, man.
What's up? Several smaller projects, but the main one will be at the release of the new software at GRM. That's still
Wicked.
down the line, a good few months, maybe a year, but it'll be out at some point. That it'll be a big relief for me.
Wicked.
Good for you.
And
Awesome.
so obviously everyone go check out Jamie's website, and I'll just put that on the screen again just so you've got it, and also Matt's website as well. Just go check those out for any more updates on that. Particularly go try out those different firmware updates.
Oh, yeah.
Just turns
I'm
your
going to get
module
hold of a
into something
warps
completely
now. I'm
different.
going to get a warps and put that on there.
I can see you having like a row of them, Jamie, and just like slowing them up and
You know
down,
what?
playing them.
Yeah, that would be beautiful, wouldn't it?
It would be beautiful.
Like
It kind of
if-
reminded me what you did with the Chamberlain in a way, and you were slowing that up and down with the tape machine or something like that.
Yeah,
It's kind
that's
of reminds me of
true. Imagine if you had a warps for each note of the chord. So, because then you could just slow them all down.
that. Yeah.
Delays are life.
They are. I mean,
There's
I can
just
never get enough.
need for delays in
I
life. That's it.
almost bought are you guys familiar with Industrial Electric, that company from Canada?
No.
I got turned on to them from Alessandro Cortini's, not Alessandro Cortini, what's his name? The guy from 9 Inch Nails. Not the big guy, but the other guy.
Trent Reznor.
No, Atticus Ross. His
Atticus,
brother Leo Ross. I had him on the pod, and he had these Industrial Electric pedals. They're like rusty and crazy, and they're wild things. And they make a delay that is a beautiful degrader. It's called like the degrader or something. That thing is choice.
Oh, yeah, I've just found it.
That thing is nice, and like that. I am a sucker for delays, man. I got so many. I almost bought another one. I was like, don't do it. I was proud of myself. There's two things recently that I almost bought. A Rhodes. There's a beautiful Rhodes for sale here in town for $1,500 with the suitcase, with the 73, with the speed, a nice one, really nice one. I know. That thing,
That's the thing. Okay. I must admit, my favourite delay still is the Strymon El Capistan. I mean, you can get them very easily, and they're so vibey. Really cool. The only thing they don't like is hot signals. If you hit too hot a signal with it, it just goes to 100% dry. It's weird.
Oh, really? It hates it. It's like,
it's just
it
like
says no.
no, thank you. Like, did I break it? Anyway, thank you
Thanks,
so much,
guys.
gents. I really appreciate it. It's been really
see
nice
ya.
to hang, and because
Absolutely.
so many of us are sat in our studios as well, and we don't necessarily get to hang out and socialise so much. So this is one way of doing that, I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to chat with you guys. Really awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you to both of you.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next month. Keep an eye out this week for the review, the sort of jamming I'm doing with the Sono Current module, the distortion module that's coming out, and a few others. So, Jamie, you're going to play us out.
I know.
Can if you want.
Yeah.
You want to jam out? You can.
Yeah, I mean, it will take forever. I probably
All right,
won't.
okay.
Remember last time I tried to demonstrate that system and it all just crashed at the last minute. I was so ready to demonstrate that last patch. See, that was a case in point where, that's just the drums. That's that spring reverb though.
There you go.
It's beautiful.
Just pulls it together.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wicked. On
Almost
that note,
water
we'll say
drops.
goodbye.
Yeah. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.